In the article, Jonathan Edwards, Enthusiast, Radical Revivalism in the Great Awakening in the Connecticut Valley, Douglas Winarski posits that due to the discovery of a letter written by Boston merchant Samuel Savage, scholars should reconsider Edwards's influence and participation in the radical revival during the summer of 1741. Savage's letter creates the opportunity to assess Edwards's famous sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. Winarski states that, quote, Edwards is best known for his reasoned defense of evangelical Calvinism, yet he was an equally powerful revivalist who hovered about contorting bodies and rapturous groans, end quote. And he suggests that Edwards was actually a promoter of the radical conversion experiences of the Great Awakening. Historian George Marsden states that Edwards was encouraged after George Whitefield's visit to the area in 1740, which had sparked a fervor of emotional salvation experiences. And according to Marsden, Edwards held several meetings in Northampton after Whitefield's visit, which were, quote, blessed with extraordinary affection so intense that many were overcome, end quote. A view which Winarski agrees with. However, it's important to understand that Edwards's influence by Whitefield does not start the revivals, but it's a continuance, showing that the stage was already set for Edwards. Edwards had spent years preaching to his congregation in Northampton, which included the use of his Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God sermon, and was known for his lack of expression and visible emotion, choosing instead to use imagery in his text to spur people to understand their need for salvation. In an article on the contrast between the fear and the cheerfulness sides of the Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God sermon, Robert Lee Stewart states that, in quote, in contrast to flamboyant preachers of the awakening, Edwards depended on meaning and force inherent in his words, end quote. Thomas Kidd states as well that, quote, Edwards always tried to maintain a balance regarding emotional expressions because he firmly endorsed the role of affections in revival, but he also knew that too much spiritual passion could lead to charges of excess, end quote. Yet Winarski uses the Savage manuscripts to show what he views as Edwards's calculated decision to use Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God to encourage radical conversions during the revivals. Winarski states it was, quote, Edwards' decision to preach Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God that galvanized the New Light factions in Suffield, end quote, which also had reverberated to Enfield, where Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God was preached. However, Marsden sums up Edwards' intentions well, stating that, quote, for Edwards, who was looking for a spiritual awakening of monumental proportions, but also knew Satan would try to counter it with excesses and self-delusions, there was nothing to do but seize the hour, end quote.